All right, we're all set. I'd like to call to order the Board of Selectmen meeting for December 18th, 2018. Before we get going, I'd like to rise and salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's jump right into scheduled items. There are no scheduled items. I think it's a Christmas miracle. Nothing jumped on the agenda, correct, Mr. Montori?
Correct.
All right, next is residents. Would anyone like to address public comments? Seeing none, we're going to jump right to new business. First order of new business is boards and committee appointments. So just very quickly here, I'm going to call it slight housekeeping. We're going to talk about two boards tonight, short and sweet. Open Space and Recreations Committee, there are 8 members. There's 1 vacancy, and the board would recommend that we place Theodore Brzezinski, nominate Theodore Brzezinski for the vacancy, and that would be effective when we vote him in up to June 30th, 2019. So it's 8-member boards, 1 vacancy, and it has been a very quiet board, but that recommendation came through the chair. So, do I have, would anyone entertain a motion to appoint Theodore Brzezinski to the Open Space and Recreation Committee for the duration of June 30th, 2019? I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion unanimous. The next order of business is for the Zoning Board of Appeals. So that's a 5-member committee. We have 1 vacancy. That vacancy happens to be an associated membership. Same deal there. The term would be for June 30th, 2019. This is a very critical board, like many. So what I'd like to just do, we don't need to take a motion, but maybe through Mr. Montori, is actually to post, once again, post this position. Let's get it out there, and let's see if we have some candidates, and then at that time, we would do the interviewing process. Again, that's for the Zoning Board of Appeals, 5-member committee. We have 1 vacancy. Again, associated membership, extend through 6/30/2019.
Mr. Chairman, speaking of the Zoning Board of Appeals, Rob Dugan has been a member, and he's been serving on the board for quite some time. But we can't find if the board officially reappointed him this year.
Okay.
So I don't know if we can just take that vote tonight just to reaffirm it so we can get that done.
Has he been?
He's been acting, yeah, he's been still working, so just to make it clean.
Make the recommendation that we appoint
Rob Dugan.
Rob to the zoning board of appeals.
I have.
Effective, is that a 2-year, is he on a 2-year?
I think it's 3, yeah.
It's statutory, isn't
It's
it?
statutory, whatever the statutory limits are.
Whether it's 3 years or that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to, we might have done it, but just in case.
Okay, very good, yeah, makes sense. I have a motion, I have a second.
You do.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Montori. Absolutely. All right, next on the new business, Ms. Stronach. A few weeks ago, we did the Mr. Montori's town manager performance appraisal. I know you had a commitment. So at this time, we'd like to give the floor to Mr. Montori your evaluation.
So, first of all, I'd like to apologize for not being able to make the last meeting. I did have a prior commitment that I could not attend to this. However, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this tonight. I want to, before I go into my evaluation, I want to recognize that the discussion that was had at the last meeting regarding the salary adjustment that was given to Mr. Montori for the FY20 budget year. There was a lot of discussion about the adjustment, and really what this came down to for me was not what is surrounding other towns are paying, not necessarily, while that's important, but what really came down to it for me was what is in the best interest of the residents and the people in the town that service us. We know very well that We go to other towns, we attend other meetings, we're in other communities, and quite often, our town manager's name rises, and he is looked upon very favorably by his peers, and we also know that the bench strength of town managers is very weak, and they're very hard to fill positions. I was on this board when Mr. Montori came, and at that time, the field was a little bit brighter than it is today, and it's getting smaller and smaller every day. So this adjustment is really a way to me, to maintain true value and an asset to this community. It's not about, bumping somebody up for the sake of bumping them up, but it is to basically ensure that Mr. Montori stays in the town of Tewksbury because we appreciate the work that he does here. And I had asked him when we talked about this if he would give me a list of things that he has done that has saved the town funds so that I can do a cost estimate. And while I can think of some things off the top of my head, true to Mr. Montori, he very humbly declined that. So I would just like to rattle off a few that I can think of, and I'm sure that people on the street can add some. But the money that has been saved by reallocating some of our debt services over the course of 10 years has been a significant impact on our bottom line, if you want to call it that. And also the work that he did on the Sutton Brook Farm and how he handled that in terms of the litigation and working with all those partners certainly saved us a significant amount of money. I'm not going to go off the top of my head and tell you what those monies are, but I can tell you it is well worth the money that we're paying him for his annual salary. And if he were to step outside his municipal field and go into the private sector, he would be able to probably double the salary that we are willing to pay him because his reputation permits him to be able to do and access that kind of thing. So I think that we are lucky to have a town manager who values the community service part of his job and who is dedicated to do the work to the best of his ability and really role models to his department heads how he wants them to act. And I just needed to say thank you for that. So I wanted to address the salary increase and let people know why I voted for it. I do realize it's a significant amount of money. And I do realize that there is an opportunity for our residents to weigh in on that. But I do know that if we had to replace Mr. Montori, we would be looking at the same kind of money. And we would probably be looking at less experienced staff than Mr. Montori is. So with that, I want to talk about his evaluation. Mr. Montori knows that my approach to evaluations is evidence-based. So my scores reflect what I see, the evidence that he has brought forth this year. And under managerial skills, once again, I look at the organization, the planning, the written communication, the reports, the ability to develop other options, the decisiveness which he makes decisions, and there is no better evidence than I find in my mailbox every single Sunday when I check my email and look at my board member reports, which is his weekly report of all the things that he's done, his communication, things that we need to have on our radar, and then all the documents that apply to that. So I did rate him a 5 in that, which is meets or exceeds the standards. Under budget preparation and administration, I rated him a 4.5, which again meets and exceeds the standard, and that's basically because the evidence in terms of his goals and his planning, and strategizing early with his department heads, and reaching across the entire town, and ensuring that the finance committee has the tools that they need to do their job, is very clear. I always have to step back and put my resident hat on and say, while we do have a very strong free cash policy initiative in place, that I would like to find ways within the budget frame to look at tax relief, and I know that we've done a little bit of that with senior buyouts and incentive programs, but something a little bit more broader than that. And I do want to say too that last year I had this same comment and I gave you a report, looking back, but you did do a much better job, in my humble opinion, of providing information of what, if we did have free cash, what the wish list would look like. So I would like to see that wish list again. When we're developing the budget, so that people know that if there is free cash, what that'll be spent ahead of time, because I do think that that's important. And I want to thank you for attending to that. Under direction, supervision, again, 5. I talked about your leadership style, so I'm not going to get more into that. I think I'm pretty clear on my comments on that. Organization, again, the way that you prepare for town meeting, you prepare for the boards, really giving us the information so that we can make data-driven decisions is pretty evident by the development of those reports that you provide to us, and the way that the documents are put forward through to the town meeting. Specifically, I'm thinking about the summary that you give to the town meeting and the residents, which over the last few years has really taken on a whole new level. And that document just, people don't go to town meeting and are a little bit apprehensive. That document really is how to get through town meeting. So I applaud that. Under community relations, I gave you a 4, and only because I find that I know you to be very approachable, but I find that in a position like yours, sometimes people don't see you as approachable, and I would just like to see you a little bit more visible in the community so that community members could see you as more approachable. And then under personal qualities, it is evident by your strong work ethic and your high level of integrity and the respect that you command outside and inside this community. It is very evident that you are have very high personal qualities. And I would say to that, this speaks to you about your personal, but I want to say that I find you to be a consummate professional.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate the work that you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Stronach. All right, next, Mio Kaufman Trust, sculpture donations to the Tewksbury Public Library. I just want to give a little bit of context very quickly regarding Mr. Mio Kaufman. So, very, very quick here. Mio Kaufman was born in Romania in 1924. He survived forced labor in the Nazi concentration camp in World War II. After the war, he studied art in Italy, and in 1951, he immigrated to the U.S. He moved in Tewksbury in 1967 and spent most of his, half of his life there. In Tewksbury, his monumental works include Water, Touching Souls, the Veterans Monument, the Muster, and the Wamisit Indian, as we all know. And that's just scratching the surface for many, many, many bodies of work. Now, his Miss Elsie Howell, his life companion and best friend, wrote the Board of Selectmen and Mr. Montori a letter, and the fact that she would like to donate on behalf of the trust a series of bodies of work, Mr. Mio Kaufman's work to the public library. So I think it's a donation. Mr. Montori, anything else to add as far as the donation? Obviously, you know, when we do have donations, it's up to the board. But again, I kind of just gave you, just to close on Mr. Miko Kaufman. Miko did pass in December of 2016, and again, this is just his body of work now being donated by Ms. Howell and the trust to the Tewksbury Library. Anything else to add on behalf of Ms. Howell?
No, I've worked with Elsie on a few occasions regarding Miko's art, and this is the list that the town, through the library director working with Elsie, came up with, and Elsie graciously agreed to donate the items to the town through the library, and just asked the board, and I'd recommend that the board accept the items listed in the letter from Elsie Howard dated December 3rd, 2018, as gifts of the town.
Okay.
To the town.
Before I seek a motion, just two things I'd like to add. Miko Kaufman had a wonderful Indian maiden statue that was recently donated to the town of Lowell. I think they said they're going to position it on the Merrimack. That was lovely, and I'm going to, before we seek a motion, I found this quote regarding Miko's fine artworks. So regarding his fine artworks, Miko has said, if you should notice one of my public sculptures that I just referenced earlier, I would like you to stop and ponder on its subject. The pause might refresh, inform, and even inspire. My work reflects the bonds that substantiate our humanity. Pretty cool and impactful, so I just wanted to read that statement. So with that being said, I will seek a motion. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll offer a motion to accept with gratitude on behalf of the town of Tewksbury the items listed in the December 3rd, 2018 letter from the Miko Kaufman Revocable Trust, signed by Elsie Howell, the trustee.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Carries unanimous. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, if I might follow with just another request, as is customary for us, we would ask the town manager to draft an appropriate letter. I don't know if it should come from the library or the town, or maybe jointly, but with respect to just thanking in a formal way for the gracious donation that's been made.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Next on our list is billboard zoning. Say that 3 times fast. Billboard zoning. So for this particular order of new business, I'm not particularly looking for a motion tonight, but I just wanted to have an open discussion around this subject. And again, just for background, back in October during special town meeting, we actually had an amendment, an article within the warrant seeking to change the bylaw around signage, specifically around off-prem signs, electronic message board, and billboards along the interstate highways and according to with state and federal regulations. So I can tell you on behalf of myself, and I think the other board members can attest, I think Mr. Pratt and Mr. Dick will add some additional color. We got a request and continue to get requests on behalf of revisiting the whole concept of billboards in the May town meeting. So I wanted to have an open discussion. I think it was, I think Mr. Johnson, I think maybe you were part of the original article. I thought it was very, very, very thorough. I thought maybe what we could do now is maybe just look at how we might advertise the revenue. I think that's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing about a missed opportunity about the revenue. So again, I wanted to have an open discussion. Many folks have been inquiring about the billboard article that failed at October town meeting. So I just wanted to get kind of the board's temperature and see how we might look at this differently in the upcoming, the next town meeting in May. So, any comments from the board? Mr. Crowder?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think there's always a little bit of confusion when this comes up, when we're talking about certain things about where they're going, where they're going to be located, and there's some concern about where they would go. Obviously, The only place that they would be located would be off of Interstate Highway. There's a number of them that are already up on Interstate Highway. They built one in Lowell, just literally, it's almost on the Tewksbury border. It's sitting there right off of 495, and I doubt if the residents even noticed that it's there. But the city of Lowell is generating revenue off of it, and putting them right in our neighborhood. I think we should definitely take a look at it to see if we can get some revenue. The revenue was designed to, specifically for sidewalk improvements. I would like to see something like that, that any revenue go would. We're always talking about trying to cut taxes. Well, this is something that we could get instant taxes, instant revenue to do improvements in the town without the residents having to pay for that. And if you get it over a 20-year period, I think it's nothing but beneficial to the community. I've had a number of people come up to me afterwards and ask, it's like, is that going to come back? And I said, because a lot of people were in favor of it when they understood the revenue, what was going on. I think it's much in the same way as the speed study that came on. We had an article that came on. I don't think we did the best job we possibly could have done to bring that issue. Every day I get a phone call for somebody telling me that they get people speeding down their streets and what can we do about it? That was an article that we brought up and the residents voted it down. I think we made it very clear that the selectmen had the ability, instead of spending $100,000 on a speed study, that if there's certain zoned areas, we could reduce the speed limit as a board and take that under consideration. And people are asking for that, but yet they voted against it, not to allow us to do it. So I think those are certain things that I understand we brought it to town meeting, I understand it failed, but I think if we brought it back with a clearer definition of where the funds are gonna be going to, what they could be used for. Everybody's asking for sidewalks in the community, and I think this would be an easy thing to address if we were to get 50 grand or 100 grand a year off of the billboard that's off the highway. I think that the residents would be pleased to have those type of things. We can discuss it at a further time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kavanaugh. Any other comments from the board?
Just a quick comment.
Mr. Dick?
So I'm in favor of revisiting it. I know we have to be very careful. I understand, town meeting, town meeting, the vote basically was close on zoning, but, we have to be careful of bringing stuff back. But I do think, in this time where we're looking for revenue opportunities, I think it's, something that the board could recommend to maybe look at a little bit further and maybe communicate a little bit harder to the residents that, where maybe the areas that these could potentially go up, how many. Some of the questions that were presented at that meeting, it seemed like there was a little bit of communication, a little vagueness, a little vague responses from the town side that I think people raised some good questions. I think if we get some a little bit more clarity on responses and maybe get a little bit more communication out there on revenue. I do like Scrap's idea about sidewalks, but obviously, I don't know if we want to earmark it exactly for that, but that is a great idea of saying, hey, something like this can help that, move that forward. So I'm in favor of revisiting it. I don't know how we do that. If I think there were some people that were looking to work with companies and businesses to sort of that maybe we can get some of them a little bit more involved in the communication process. So, and I do understand we have to be careful bringing this stuff back. Get things down but it's close. I think there's a little bit more communication that could happen, and I think it is a good opportunity. We just had a tax increase and things like that.
Mr. Ryan, just to piggyback Mr. Brian Dick there too, through town meeting, residents right after the meeting said I think we had two amendments for that particular article. When we have amendments, it does seem like it's very confusing to the residents. Again, that was direct feedback. So, hopefully this is an example where, residents can come at open mic and get things on the agenda, or they can come through us. I think this is just an example of residents coming to us, asking us about it, and we're just socializing it, talking about it, and see how we might move it forward down the road. That's all. So, thank you for your comments. Ms. Strong?
I am in favor of the billboards bringing revenue to the town, and I would ask our town manager, and I know that some of the issues were the placement of those. Mark is very correct about his example of billboards. I do understand why people are apprehensive about billboards, especially now with LED lights and where they are, and I think that we can address that, but I would like to ask the town manager to kind of walk through people at home, how we bring something. I think I know it, but I don't want to miss,
Bring something forward for town meeting?
yep, so
So-
when something gets voted down.
It depends on the article. Zoning articles have some statutory limitations on when and if they can be brought back. There's some time limits on that, unless the planning board votes favorably on the new zoning, on a zoning article coming back, or if there's substantial changes to the article, then that's okay. But for regular warrant articles, they can be brought back at any time. It's been done, it can be done. As Mr. Dick said, you want to just be careful on how you bring them back to make sure there's valid reason for bringing them back. But the Board of Selectmen can place an article on the warrant for any town meeting that we're having. An elected board or commission can do the same thing. And the town manager can submit articles. The boards given appointed boards and committees the courtesy of allowing them to submit articles. But if a resident wants to submit an article to annual town meeting, they need 10 signatures of registered voters, at least 10 signatures of registered voters. And if it's for a special town meeting, it's 200 signatures.
And if you don't mind, I just have a couple of other questions. It's my recollection, I'm impressed that you have the minutes of the town meeting there, but it is my recollection that this was supported by the planning board for town meetings.
It was supported by the planning board, and the Board of Selectmen,
And the Finance Committee.
and the Finance Committee, yeah.
And then, so if we were to think about this and we put the amendments that were in this, would that be a substantial change to the article to bring zoning back because of the time limit?
Yeah, I'd have to look at it just to compare it, but I think if the planning board votes in favor of the article, then that will be sufficient enough. As long as the planning board votes in favor of the article, it should be okay to bring back.
So with that said, Mr. Chairman, I would ask that and encourage you as the chair of this board to maybe reach out to the planning board and find out where their head is at before we kind of put our toes in the water to say this is not, I'm absolutely open to entertaining this idea. I don't think we should ever shut down any revenue source without turning the stone.
Well, if we're not going to do it, I know a handful of residents that will, but hence the conversation. Thank you, Mr. Arco. Mr. Johnson, anything to add?
Yes, a couple comments. Let me first state, because you mentioned it a few minutes ago, the zoning bylaw committee that I represent this board on spent a fair amount of time on this particular article in advance of town meeting. So I've put in my share of time on this, and I supported the article that was presented to town meeting and voted for it. So like I think the majority view here, or maybe unanimous view here, I was disappointed with the outcome. But I do have some concerns about rushing to bring it back because we didn't like the outcome. And I think there's a fine line in which we have to respect the fact that we have a town meeting form of government that residents have made clear to us in the not-too-distant past that they respect and want that form of government. And they chose at that special town meeting in October to defeat this particular article. So I have some concerns about trying to substitute our judgment for what town meeting determined. While I don't disagree with the comments that have been made and the analysis that the town manager presented, I think we need to be very careful and give it some thought before we kind of race to get it into the May warrant, if that's the pleasure of this body. I think we need to be a little bit more deliberate about that. For example, if people had concerns, we should hear about those concerns. So maybe there should be some public forums, for example, that invite that commentary. If people had issues about the locations, perhaps the article needs to be refined to identify specific locations, or invite residents to express their concerns about particular locations so that we can be better informed and maybe present something that is more in line with the thinking of the community. We've had, as I think everyone knows, the town forever has had a bylaw prohibiting billboards. So that's for a reason. And we asked that it be changed, and residents said they didn't want to change it. And I think we need to be very mindful and careful about trying to insert our opinion about how and why residents voted no. We all have our theories. While I can agree that there may have been some confusion, I also heard messages from people who offered their opinions about the lighting, which is going to be an issue no matter what, and other issues of location that were of concern to them. So I don't think it was just confusion. I think there was a lot of votes in there in the town meeting that were, unfortunately, from where I sit, opposed to this particular article. So I think we need to be very careful about how we proceed. As I said, I supported it. I believe that we should explore the concept. I think that there's definitely a revenue context to it, but when you strip this down, the article didn't speak to revenue, because it's not. It's a zoning change. It spoke to the ability to put billboards within the town borders. And if, in fact, that were to be the case, then separate and distinct from that article, the Board of Selectmen have the authority from a financial perspective to manage a memorandum of agreement or a contract with a provider in order to generate some form of revenue. So they're two different things, and I think we have to be careful. And I'll just add, while I certainly support and I recognize that one of the top 2 or 3 areas that residents have told us repeatedly that they want in Tewksbury, that being sidewalks. Just in general, I'm not a big fan of earmarking, because things change. And I don't know if that should be something that's written into an article to absolutely dedicate those funds to a particular purpose. I'd have to think about that a little bit more. Again, I don't have problems with building sidewalks. I applaud the fact that we're doing that, but I think we can, in my opinion, trust our administration to spend the money and bring the right plans to the table, as opposed to potentially mandating that these particular funds go for that particular purpose. Down the road, that may not be, in our judgment, the best use of those funds. And if we have that associated with an article that's voted at town meeting, we've locked ourselves in. So I think we should explore that a little bit further as well. And I believe we have a plan for sidewalk installation, and we have an annual request at town meeting to put resources towards sidewalks. So maybe the better approach might be for the town manager to think about if our current plan is sufficient enough financially to address it in a different way, as opposed to kind of cherry picking a certain area and dedicating resources to that one area. Those are just my thoughts, and I would welcome continued discussion on it, because
I do think in some levels it may have been a missed opportunity, but that's my perspective, and residents who were at town meeting might very much disagree with that. They may have said I had a clear mind and a clear picture, and I voted against it, and I would ask you as elected officials to respect those wishes. I'm not going to try to guess which one is right, but I think we need to be very cognizant of that as we move forward. And I think we have opportunity because we have some time to seek input from residents about what they actually believe and think. And that may help us to form our course of action in a more enlightened way.
Very good. Great feedback collectively from the board. I especially like the idea of public forums, only with the residents, but even potentially maybe some, let's just call them businessmen or women that would, be in the board game, so to speak. So I took a bunch of notes, just for the residents and for the board. I plan to follow up with the chairman, Mr. Johnson from the planning board. I'll include Mr. Montori, the assistant town manager, and we'll just have the conversation, and we'll go from there. We'll develop a plan. I do think we have enough time. I think we're a little bit ahead of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to mention, so traditionally at the first meeting in January, the board will open the warrant for town meeting, and we usually allow 30 days because we've kind of accelerated things because we're mailing the warrant out now. And this particular warrant is going to be large. It's going to be over 200 pages. And so we'll probably open the warrant I'll ask the board to open the warrant on January 8th and close it February 8th. So that gives the board the January 8th meeting, the 22nd, and the 5th of February. So you'll have 3 meetings to vote to insert or not to insert this article.
Okay,
So
very good.
there is time.
And just one point to Mr. Johnson, I think you made a very good point, where that was a zoning bylaw article. It wasn't a financial article, dollars and cents versus the zoning change. And that's so that's gonna be part of the discussion, it's just, I don't know if it's a slippery slope, but I can understand how residents are like, wait a minute, revenue, how they piece it together, those two components, and that's very, that's astute. It's a tough, I wouldn't say it's a tough sell, but maybe we can do a better job advertising the outcome for dollars as opposed to just the zoning bylaw change, if that makes sense, because it was, you know what I mean?
I just want to add, just the difficulty in that is you're assuming you know where the billboard is going to go, and you assume you know who the carrier is going to be, which you have no idea at that point. So throwing a number around becomes difficult if you present to the residents, it's $50,000 a year, and then you happen to get only $25,000. So we just need to be very careful on how we present it.
And that's what I told the resident, the resident was very astute, okay, do all the billboards in a 40-mile radius and just come up with some potential costs. Again, it was a good idea for the resident to say, hey, okay, you might not have cost so many wild cards associated with the change. However, there are billboards out there, so what are other towns and communities getting? Which is very interesting. And again, hence the discussion, that's all. So.
Yeah.
All right, very, very good. So again, no action required on this one, but I wanted to stimulate the conversation, per a number of residents. So I think it was a very healthy conversation. We'll see where it goes. So Mr. Montour will be chatting very soon on that subject.
Definitely.
Awesome. Next, Dascom Road Limited Partnership Sewer Agreement. So Mr. Montour, just for the residents, just give us an insight on this order of new business.
Sure. So 160 Dascom Road, which is located in Andover, has an agreement to connect to Tewksbury Sewer. They've had that agreement since about 1999, when it was actually a different company. They're coming up to the end of their agreement, which is in, I believe, around September of 2024. So they wanted to get ahead of the game to extend their agreement, and they wanted to have discussions early because if there was a reason we were not going to extend the agreement, they need time to make adjustments. Town council, the director of public works, myself, the assistant town manager have been meeting on this, working with 160 Dascom Road, their attorney, the city of Lowell, because that's where we send our wastewater, in the town of Andover. And we've come up with an agreement to extend the sewer agreement with 160 Dascom Road commencing on September 1st, 2024, and running through at least June 30th, 2037. That's when our agreement with Lowell wastewater expires. If the, most likely will be, when the Lowell agreement is extended, then this agreement will run with that again. But it's just an extension of that agreement for 160 Dascom Road. They've been a good sewer customer, and we've had no issues with them paying their bills, and I'd recommend the board approve the agreement and authorize the chair or myself to sign.
Questions, comments from the board? Ms. Stronach?
Yes, I just would like the residents to note that because they are outside of the town, they actually pay a higher rate for sewer than our residents do. So while this agreement is beneficial to both parties, it is a way for us to capture revenue source for a very well infrastructure that we have in town with our sewer system. So it's great to be able to capitalize on that with surrounding communities for us to capture that revenue at a significantly higher rate.
That's a good point.
Comments from the board?
Yes, I do have a question for the town manager. I know we've talked about this in the past, but with respect to capacity issues and, wear and tear on our infrastructure, have those factors been considered in the big picture, not just for this particular project, but overall? We have a number of abutting properties throughout the community that rely on us now.
Right, I mean,
Just curious.
yeah, I mean, they've been an existing user, so they've been already built into our capacity, and we have additional capacity still left with Lowell, and we can always try to adjust that, but, so that doesn't seem to be an issue at this point. We've also not allowed any other outside connections to our system because we don't want to start using up our capacity, so we've left it to just the ones that are there now, such as the Andover properties. And as far as infrastructure, our system is in good shape. It's not that old. Anything that they need to do within the Andover area, they're responsible for. And we wanted to make sure of that. So I think we're covered in all different areas. They're also required as part of this agreement to conduct on an occasional basis an inflow and infiltration inspection of the lines to make sure that there's no problems with their lines and to make sure they're corrected. So I think the senior town council and the director of public works did a good job ensuring Tewksbury's interests are covered.
Good. Thank you.
Very good. Any additional comments? Yeah, and that's, just for the residents, reading the countless pages from the lawyers, is very, very thorough. Obviously, we read it, we have to trust. We had questions as well. We have to review senior town council, and Mrs. Rulis obviously reviewed it. And that was the only other question I had, what you just answered, as far as an occasional, an inspection.
Inspection of the lines,
How do
yeah.
we know, that they're not adding connections, and then that's gonna,
Yeah, so, and that's a good point. So they're metered, and we'll monitor that to make sure that they're not going over their allocated flow, which I think is 20,000 gallons per day. So because of the metered flow, we're aware of what they're using and that they stay within it, which they have. The other important note is if they decide that they want to terminate the agreement, they have to give us 5 years. And the reason why that's important to us, and we did that with Pulte Homes off of River Road, is because particularly in the Dascom Road area, there's going to be a major development brought forward from Salapoli, which did ask to hook into our sewer system, and we denied connection because of capacity and because of infrastructure reasons. But they'll be extending sewer from within Andover to that property. Our concern has been that the properties that we currently service in that area could jump onto the new line, which means we'll have a gap in revenue. So right now, that isn't the case, but any extensions or new agreements that we've done with Andover, we've required 5 years' notice. But it's something we're monitoring because there are still agreements out there that don't have that provision. And if they do jump to the new line, as Mr. Stronach pointed out, our rate is higher. They could see a benefit to them, and we would lose that revenue, which, every year when we do the sewer rates, we're cognizant of that. That's why we try to, prepare for something like that.
Very good for the highlight. I think, I don't know if I missed it, Mr. Montori, but how long has the agreement been in? You've been, I think you
I
just...
think it's 1999 under a different company.
So you're talking, okay.
Yeah, so it was about a 25-year
And they've been a very good customer.
They have been a good customer, yeah. And the new agreement that was put in place by town council cleaned up a lot of issues that were in the original agreements.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from the board?
One quick one, so on the other side, is there any escape agreement from Tewksbury?
Both have term, I think both have similar type provisions.
This is my question.
Okay, very good. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll offer a motion to approve the agreement as presented and authorize the appropriate parties to execute it on behalf of the town.
Okay, actually, I have a motion, just discussion, through Mr. Montori. Like, is this something that would actually go through the finance committee as well, like a finance committee review?
No, no, it's all the Board of Selectmen's authority.
Thank you. Okay, so I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye, opposed? Unanimous. Next, open space deeded to the town, fiscal year 2019 abatements. So, Mr. Montori, this is open space associated with the town, and simply put, we're just waiving the taxes associated with the open space for the fiscal year of 2019, correct?
Correct. This is land that was donated over the past year that was deeded to the town for a variety of reasons, mostly for development in the community. It was part of that development. The land had been taxed, and now it's not going to be, but in order to take it off the books, the board needs to abate these taxes.
Okay, and just very roughly, just for the residents, we're talking 29 Pine Street, 60 Harvest Lane, 50 Roberts Terrace Way, 2 Robert Terrace Way, and Cuban Road. And I think the associated abatement, it's north, it's south of $500 essentially that we're waiving, correct?
Correct.
All right, just for the residents. That said, what's the pleasure of the board?
Making the motion, Mr. Chair, to approve the open space deeded to the town as presented in the document before us tonight.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Next, TJ Callahan's entertainment license. I think that we have a request for 2 particular dates. One is December 31st. That's New Year's, right? Yeah, December 31st is New Year's. 2018, from 9:30 PM to 12:30 AM. So right, ringing in the new year. We also have a request from TJ Callahan's entertainment license for March 17th, 3 PM to 12:30 AM, and that is St. Patrick's Day, correct? Okay, very good. I reviewed the paperwork. Any questions from the board?
No, Mr. Chairman, I just offer a comment that this is an annual request. It's part of the license process that we've instituted with this particular establishment, and to the best of my recollection, each year they've requested these 2 dates, and we've not had any issues whatsoever. So I would be supportive of the 2 dates.
Okay, very good. I have a motion. Do I have a second? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous.
I don't, just this one.
For what's that?
Just town council.
Yes, actually, I did. Oh, Mark does as well.
Just town council.
You did, Mr. Montori?
Nope, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. It was just
Which brings us to Mr. Montori, town manager. What do we got?
Just First item I had on here was asking the board to approve switchbox art at the corner of East and Shawshene, but I'm going to turn this over to Selectman Crappen, who is a member of the Beautification Committee and can speak to it better than myself.
Thank you. Yeah, so the beautification committee met on November 28th at 6:30. We had a local artist, Mr. David Kelly, that came in. He's a resident of the town, and he had a design for a switchbox at East and Shawshene in front of Kelly Plaza. The theme of the switchbox will be Tewksbury's past, present, and future. And much in the way that we've been trying to, dress up these switch boxes. I think it adds a little bit of flavor to the community, brings a little history on these things. We've done a number of them through the town. The residents seem to like them. The artist plans on painting all four sides of it. And we're going to have depicted, it's going to be Stewart's Department Store, Wamisit Bowling, Wamisit Driveland, and the old Funland mini golf. It's the start of the history of the town. And so we're looking to get approval to have this, allow the artists to paint the switch box and, try to brighten up that area as we're going through there.
What was the age of Mr. Kelly?
What's that?
He's got a wonderful last name. Well, how old was Mr. Kelly? David Kelly. How old in age? I think he was a youngster, right?
Yeah, I don't know exactly his age, but, he came in with the design, which we've all seen a copy of it. So he had the fact that he came in with the history of the thing, and he looked into it, and I was kind of getting a chuckle because it has like the Funland rocket, which recently just fell over. so it's saying a little bit of history. It'd be nice to have it, something like that that's showing what a lot of us remember those days, but a lot of kids may not. So I would seek to see if we can get approval to approve the design of this and allow the beautification committee to allow the artists to go out there and paint the spots.
Okay. If there's no other comments, I have a motion. Or a second.
I will happily make that motion. I'd like to thank the young artist for his meetings, which I have to say is very fun.
They are cool. Very, very neat. So I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. All right. Anything else, Mr. Montori?
Just a couple of quick things. There's a town council invoice from November 16th through November 30th in the amount of $2,422.50, and I'd ask the board to approve.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
And one last item that I just want to mention, especially just not to the board, but to the residents who might be listening. We've had some comments from residents, and I actually get one probably more often than not from a particular resident regarding the paper retrievers that are in school parking lots. There's one at the between the annex and the fire department. There's one at the library. And these paper retrievers were put in place for the past, I don't know how many years, as fundraisers or money for different nonprofits and for the town. Well, because of the paper market for recycling, the bins have not been picked up. And the company that owns the bins is not going to pick them up. They're just going to let them sit there, and they're overflowing. The company had an agreement with another company to come and pick up the bins, and the town was going to help facilitate that by locating all the bins in a centralized location for the company to pick them up over the next week or two. And then the agreement between the two companies fell apart, so we're left still with no resolution with these overflowing containers. So we've already sent some strong emails to the company about getting the containers out. I'm going to meet with town council tomorrow and formalize more of a legal letter to them and give them so many days to remove the containers, or we will do it on our own and pass the cost on to them. If we have to go to court on it, we will. And I've already threatened that we'll take the containers and sell them to a scrap metal firm, which I'm sure there are many that will pay for them. So we're working on it. I know people are passing them, thinking we're not doing anything, but it's not as easy as it seems. We're also working with Republic Waste, our current trash and recycling hauler, to see if they can take away the paper, and we'll just pay for the disposal. But I'm not sure they're going to want to touch these containers in case something happens. So we're trying a variety of areas, but the company is basically ignoring, not just us, any town that has these. So I just want to pass that on.
Thank you for the update. Thank you very much, okay? Sure, please, Mr. Crowder.
Do you think you could touch base on the new thing that we're installing on Livingston Street? I think it's gonna be opening before our next meeting.
The ice skating rink?
So,
Yeah, good point.
I think we
Yeah.
should bring that to.
Yeah, no, good.
I
point.
think the residents
So-
should know before it just
Yeah.
pops up and where this
Yeah,
came from.
so we, utilizing the recreation revolving account, which had some funding in it, we purchased an ice skating rink for the residents to use for casual ice skating. It's not for hockey. And we installed it. It was built by a group of volunteers. I want to thank Mark Ginsberg, Vinnie Fatalia, and the crew that they brought down, along with our own parks crew, to install it today. Vinnie Bomo, our facilities manager, has been involved in this also. The ice skating rink was built today. They'll be installing the liner over the next day or two, and we'll be flooding the rink and hope for some cold weather to have some ice for people to ice skate. We're going to keep the gates locked until we are comfortable that the ice can be used. We plan to open the rink on a daily basis from 8 in the morning to 9 at night, and then we'll have the gate locked. We have lights down there so it can be used at night. We're printing signs for some rules. It will not be unsupervised skating, so we expect people to be courteous and understanding of others' skating. And again, it's not a hockey rink. It's a recreational casual skating rink. So we're looking forward to seeing it being used.
Very, very good. Comments?
No, I'm just wondering, it looks like, I'm grateful I stopped by there today to check it out, and the wind was a little bit too strong for them to get the liner in.
Right.
This is a giant liner, and it was pretty, the thing would have taken off like a balloon if they unrolled it. But they're making progress, and it's great that while the kids are out on school vacation, that they'll have the opportunity for this to do. And I do agree with making sure that it's at the right temperatures. I did hear some discussion about surrounding areas that there was damage caused because the ice was not.
Right, they opened it too early.
And so, keeping control of it, because if it's melted, then they'll cut right through the line, which will be an issue right there. So as long as we're maintaining it, locking it up, and opening it up when the temperatures are correct. It looks like we're gonna have plenty of temperatures to work with this in the near future. Looks like
Yeah,
it's gonna be
we
pretty
should.
cold out there.
Mr. Montori, I know you have some pictures. Could we put some pictures up on the website?
Yes, I have some pictures out they took today, and I want to get some pictures once the liner's in, and we'll get them up on the website.
Awesome, very, very good.
While we're giving out thank you letters, if we could send some thank you letters to those volunteers as well.
Definitely.
Because I know it's a big project, so we appreciate the support for that.
Very good. All right, it brings us to minutes. Mr. Brian Dick.
No minutes today to present.
All right, that brings us to board member reports. Mr. Crowder.
Well, I pretty much gave an update on the beautification committee. We met on the 28th, had a number of things that we talked about, some of the things that we were doing in the community, which we're moving forward with in the next year, some of the things that we want to bring forward. We'll try to keep the town, beautification days, other things, switch boxes, the other things as we're going along. Economic Development Committee met on the 26th. We have a draft business guide that we're working to update. We have a contract with a group out of MCOG, and our business development guide is sort of outdated. We put an update on the website. The goal was to show why businesses should come to Tewksbury, and we're in the process of updating that. And that'll be controlled by the town, so yearly we can update it instead of it letting it in 3 or 4 years away like it is now. And then on the Lowell Regional Transit Board, we met on December 6th. think I mentioned at the last meeting that I was able to convince them to install a bus shelter at senior housing. There's a need for it down there. We're gonna be installing a crosswalk down there, we're improving the lights, the LED lights down there, so this way, when residents get off on both sides of the street, they'll be able to get off safely and come over and have a bus shelter that will be well lit, so that, we got a lot of complaints that sometimes the bus couldn't see them down there. So, the bus shelter, I think that'll bring a little bit more attention, they'll have a warm place to be, dry place to be, that'll be going on. And while we're at the meeting, we also discussed, applying for additional state funds to try to have bus service on Sundays, which we've never had before. So we're hoping to bring that through. We're having constant conversations about bus routes. I'm going to meet with the town manager to discuss that, and a couple of people in the town to discuss, if there's need for changing some of the bus routes and what we may need to do with all the new development that's going on, the hospital, the condos, and all the other things that are going in, to try to limit the traffic on 38. If there's a way that we can work something out to have the buses picking up additional people that bring them to the Wilmington station or to Lowell station or whatever, that's something we always want to look at to try to get the traffic off at 38. And they were open to any suggestions that we had, so we'll have that discussion in the future and see what we can do to get additional bus services. That's pretty much all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Kratman. Ms. Strunk.
Since I missed the last meeting, I have to go back to November 30th and thank the events committee for the work on the tree lighting. I really love driving through the center of town and seeing all those Christmas lights. It makes me happy.
You can see right over the
And
window.
I know.
Oh, beautiful, yeah.
I was thinking it's a lot warmer in here this year than it has been in 2000.
There was a time not long ago when you couldn't see because the plastic was over the windows, so.
Freezing. So anyway, I do want to thank the committee. It was a really great night, and the people that attended that really enjoyed it. So, and I want to thank the DPW and the police and the fire department who all volunteered and did work to make that event such a success. On December 12th, the housing authority met. We're still working on trying to make sure that that we're over our 10%. We're keeping a close eye on that. I'm sorry, not the housing authority, the local housing partnership just slipped into Lawrence for a second there, I'm sorry. The local housing committee, and we're maintaining our 10%. That's what we're keeping our eye on. So that really was the focus of that meeting. And then again, the work that Habitat is doing for the local housing projects to make sure the affordable housing is maintained. So I want to thank them for their work on that. The Historic Commission met yesterday. I was not in attendance with that meeting. Mr. Montori, along with the chairman of the Elementary Building Committee meeting, met with the Historical Commission to discuss the center school and taking down the center school as part of the elementary school building project. It is my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that that was a very successful meeting, and that was approved by that committee, and they are now forwarding that request to the Mass Commission
Yes, historical
for,
commission.
for their approval next. So, we appreciate their time. I will let everyone know that they did a lot of homework on the matter, and from what I'm being told, that they had lots of questions. So I'm glad that we were able to address them in a way that they felt comfortable with the way the project's moving forward. So I want to thank the committee chair and Richard Montori for taking the time to do that. And with that said, the elementary school building committee meeting is this Thursday night, and it'll be a very big meeting for us because we are preparing the cost estimate, which will be submitted to the MSBA. Once we do this, it's kind of stamps the project in this moment in time and will be the basis for the funding of the MSBA. So this is a very critical meeting, and the meetings of late have been long, and lots of good information, lots of good questions from community members, and I would be remiss if I wasn't thanking the residents who are coming out voicing their opinions, giving us their concerns, so we can add those concerns into the project in a way that we're able to alleviate some of their concerns. We will be hosting other community events as this project moves on, but we will not be doing it in concert with our committee meetings because we didn't want to feel like we were cutting people short, but made for a very intense meeting afterwards. So we want to make sure that we have time to hear the residents as well as do the work that we need to do on the committee. So I want to be clear on that. And the field committee is also coming in before us on Thursday night to present their recommendations to be implemented in part of the project. So I encourage people. We do know that we have to work on our website in terms of the elementary school building committee. There is stuff that is out there, but we're going to do a better job at getting it all in one place. So we're going to work on that. And the other thing that I have to say is I hope everybody enjoys their holidays and has a safe New Year's. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brian Dick.
Mr. Stronach just mentioned the committee that I chair, the athletic field subcommittee, will make a presentation Thursday. The elementary building committee will make some recommendations on that athletic field and buildings around it. So it should be a good meeting. I think that's right out of the gate at 6 o'clock. So once that's done, I'm sure the elementary building committee will discuss and approve or not approve those recommendations. So I just have to, the committee is made up of myself, Mrs. Chrissy Paulino from the school committee, Mr. James Dennis Francis from the school committee, Mr. Keith Mangan, who's the AD of Bedford High School, Mr. John Stedman, he's a resident that we put on the committee, and he's our part, Mr. Ronnie Druin, the AD athletic for Tewksbury, and Mr. Brian Miller, who's our football coach, also resident. So everybody's weighed in, put together some good information, and it should be a good, informative, good presentation, and then a good robust discussion, I'm sure. So good. Very good, awesome.
You keep working that fast, we're gonna make you the chair of other committees.
No good deed goes unpunished. Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Brian Dick. Mr. Johnson.
I guess I'll start off being Scrooge before I get to good things. I just want to ask through the chair to the town manager, we have, we are in the process of license renewals for a lot of businesses that hold varied licenses in the town. I just wanted to check in, respect to, every year at this time, we always have discussions about business owners who may be delinquent in their obligations to the town. And their license obviously is in jeopardy as a result of that. But can you give us an idea of where things stand with
Yeah.
respect to that?
Yeah, we have a handful, I don't know the exact number, but it's less than 10 that still owe either taxes or fees. There's one that this board deals with every time, every year at the same time. We'll give everyone till they won't get their license until closer to the end of the calendar year. And if they haven't paid, we'll still give the license out. But I'll ask the board on January 8th to call for a hearing to revoke their license because of the outstanding taxes.
And there's been communication made to those parties?
Yes, everybody has been contacted. Actually, personal phone calls have been made to each of them.
Yeah, so,
And the ones that did have amounts that came right in, and a lot of them came right in and paid them.
Sorry.
Some had already been en route to pay them. But there is one that's just an annual problem. And, at some point, we may just need to deal with it to just end the problem.
okay, well, I'd ask you, obviously, and I know you will, keep us apprised of that as we get closer to the end of the year. And I know we didn't name any names today or tonight, but those folks, if they're paying attention, certainly know who they are. And I would urge them to do the right thing by their community and meet the obligations that they have, so that we can do our part and continue to support them from a license perspective. So with that, I can inform my colleagues that the zoning bylaw committee actually did not meet since we were last here. So we're in the process of revisiting the most recent draft, and we have to regroup to schedule meetings into the beginning of 2019. But we remain on track to hopefully meet the warrant deadline that the town manager reflected earlier tonight, in anticipation of presenting a very lengthy zoning revision article to the community at the May town meeting. So that will be quite the article. To be mailed to all residents, yes. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, very good, thank you very much. Short and sweet, the newly elected Senator Feingold, Representative Robinson, and please help me with her name, Representative, thank you, yeah, I always want to get that right. They were actually,
What was that, though? I didn't hear it.
I have a cold, though. One more time, Mr. Stronick?
I believe it's from.
Okay,
Okay, very good.
thank you.
So moved. So they want to come in on January 8th, however, I think they get sworn in on January 3rd, so what we're going to do is bring them in maybe in February. And one of my colleagues, Mr. Johnson, had a very good idea, because he's obviously done this in the past with his experience, where let's socialize with us what we will look for through the community, and I can think of one, Mark mentioned it already, was Route 38. So what we can do as a board is put some collective thoughts together, and when they come to the meeting, they can share their priorities for the upcoming year, and we can also share our priorities, whether they're collective or individual, and have that dialogue. So we're going to put that on hold and meet sometime in February. And the only other thing is Mr. Ron Farino, he is our finance director. Ron is going to retire. I never saw a man smile so much. We're going to miss Ron. He's as solid as they get. And Mr. Montori, I know you give him praise and praise and praise. I've worked with, had the pleasure now to work with him being on this board, and One Shop Cookie, and he's a Tewksbury fellow as well. So Ron will be missed. When's his last day?
He'll be finished on January 7th, and then he'll be working 2 days a week after that.
Okay, very good, very good. Now, someone's going to ask, do we have a plan for his replacement, or are you going to wear the Superman cape like you
No,
always?
so we're going to have, Ron's going to still be on 2 days a week in a capacity of finance director, but the assistant town accountant, Pam Alfano, will be upgraded to town accountant, and the current senior clerk in the office will be upgraded to assistant town accountant. And we'll formalize all that over the next few weeks, but that's the plan, and then we're almost staying on to help with any issues that might come up, analysis that I may need, help with the upcoming year's closing and start of the fiscal year, just to make sure. But Pam's been involved in the department for quite some time, and so the town accountant, the chief assessor, and the treasurer collector will be direct reports to me.
Okay, very
It should work out well.
good. Mr. Johnson?
I know it's your report, sir, so I don't want to interrupt, but your timing's, it's interesting. I pulled out of the Mass Municipal magazine this week. I just was sharing this with the town manager earlier. But there's an article that talks about municipalities that are having difficulty filling finance-related posts in their communities, and obviously it is lamenting the fact that there are fewer and fewer talented and qualified individuals in that specific area. So just to kind of follow on in Mrs. Stronach's comments about the town manager's performance, and echoing the comments that all of us made a few weeks ago, I think this is more evidence that supports why having a capable town manager who can assume a little more responsibility in that area, but also has built a team to delegate some of those duties for, and still manage to get it done, when other communities throughout the Commonwealth have a vacancy and they have no solution. I think it's a pretty strong story about what we have going on here in Tewksbury.
It's a good team over there, so I think we'll be fine.
That's awesome. Ms. Stronach?
I'm sorry, as we jump all over your report.
Mm.
I just have to make a comment. It is not that there is not talent in this area in terms of finances, it's that people do not go into municipal government
Sure,
because
right.
of the salaries. So,
In part, that's true.
right, and other various things that come along with the job that make it sometimes unpleasant. So I just want to make, there are qualified individuals, they're just not going into the field because of the demands of the jobs and work in the municipalities. Challenging.
And the last time the finance director position was open, I think it took us well over 6 months, if not longer, to find a replacement. So it's just not easy. So I think
I just need
the approach we have, I think we're fine.
Very good, very good. All right, anything else to add? I mean, in a good way. We're talking about Ron.
Did we get you off your game?
Now, Ron is, I just have to say,
Like my
Ron
kids.
is an outstanding finance director, the best I've ever worked with, and as happy as he is, we are as sad. So, we all wished him well at his party this past week, so we're gonna miss him, but he's been great.
And we will do something collectively as the board, like you said, he's gonna work a few days. Like I said, I love to see his smile. He's a hard worker, but man, oh man, is he looking forward to the next couple of weeks, so. All right, with that being said, do we have a motion to adjourn? So moved. So moved. I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor? I adjourn. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, everyone.